Back up at the cabin again. It's been a while since we were able to get up here. We have a lot of commitments at home and haven't been able to get away. And Anna couldn't come up this time either, so it's just Shep and I. But anyway, I think I'm going to be up here over a week, so I should be able to get stuff done. I want to work on the pathway on the hill. I really want to get the insulation of the cathedral ceiling started. It's a big job, so just get part of it done anyway. And I think I want to start a woodshed as well. So if I can get some of those things done, I'll be happy. It's supposed to be a hot one, but that's okay. I think we'll have a good week. Well, I want to do a little work on the hill today, pick up where we left off. All the logs are in place, or at least most of them are, and they're laid out to border or outline the pathway we want to put down. So today I'd like to put some fill in to level out the walking area beside all these logs. And before I do that though, in between some of the logs there are gaps. You can see them, they're not big, but the fill might just sift right through them all. So I've cut a bunch of pieces of wood that I had, and I'm going to try and fit them into these spaces. I was going to use landscape fabric to keep the fill from sifting through, but I think these pieces of wood will fill the gaps and do a better job. So for the fill that I want to put on the path on the hill, I debated different types of things to put on there. I did think at one time of using this kind of gravel. I think it's 5/8 gravel. It settles pretty well and packs down pretty good, but it doesn't blend in with the environment, number one. And number two, I was afraid it might roll a little bit. You might roll on the stones. I gave some thought to sand, which I have here, but it just washes away in the rain. So actually, rather than gravel or soil, I'm going to try wood chips. So I had Glenn, my neighbor, who's in the business, he brought a load of wood chips over, and we're going to put some of it down and just see how it works and see if we want to do the whole thing in wood chips. Well, we've got quite a few loads of wood chips down, and it turned out pretty good. I like it. It's comfortable to walk on. It's fairly level now, even though I really haven't spent a lot of time leveling it out. So it's pretty good, as long as the rain doesn't wash it away, and I don't think it will. This worked out ideal. I'd keep on going, but we've come to a point now where we're crossing over the water line and electric line to the pump house. So rather than just fill it with wood chips and walking over it and wheelbarrowing over top of it, I thought I should design or figure out some kind of bridge system over top of it. So I'm going to stop with the wood chips right now and see if I can come up with something to cross over the Big O here. I've decided to dig a trench. I had a little bit of a trench, but I decided to dig a much bigger trench underneath the Big O and sink it down further. So I'll still have to build a little something over top of it, but it should be less complicated and easier to do. Now, I started digging this out and I've come across a big tree root, and I don't like cutting big tree roots because I want all these trees to survive, but this particular one has to go. So this root here, about 2 inches across, and it runs all the way down the same line as the pipe right there. I don't know if you can see it in the video. So I'm going to have to try and cut that out. So we cut through the top right there, and now I'm going to have to move down and cut down here through the bottom. A big root. I'd like to keep working on the hill, but I've got to get started on the cathedral ceiling insulation, and it's a big job and I got to get at it. It's going to be warm, but I can't keep putting it off, so I'm going to start that now, and I'll come back and pick up where I left off here with the pathway. So before I can insulate the ceiling, I need to get the vapor barrier up on the gable end here. Now it's an odd shape, so I thought it would be a good place to use this vapor barrier, this giant sheet I have here that is left over from when early in our build we tried to cover the whole floor area of the cottage to protect it from rain. It was the great mistake by the lake. Nevertheless, it's still a very good 6 mil vapor barrier, so I need to cut a piece to fit this gable end. It's about 29 degrees Celsius outside, and up in the loft here though, it's baking. I just brought the thermometer up and it's 40 degrees Celsius. I got the fan going and that helps a bit, but now that I've put this vapor barrier up, the windows are blocked. So I'm not going to fool around, I'm going to cut these out right away. So now that the vapor barrier is up on the gable end, and it's more or less completed right down to the corner there, so that's going to allow me to start working on the ceiling. And before I can put insulation in here, I have to create an air barrier up against the plywood that allows air to go from the soffit along the roof and right up and out the peak there. That allows the roof to stay cool and for moisture to escape. So to make that barrier, I've got these roof vents, and these bumps go like this against the roof, against the sheathing, and they keep the sheathing or the rafter vent from collapsing, and that'll allow air to shoot up through a couple tunnels all the way to the peak. So I can do that on this area and this area and so on. But on the last one right here, you'll see during framing, we ran these 2x4s. They go right outside to allow an overhang on the roof. So those air vents aren't going to work. How is air going to get from the soffit all the way up to the vent at the peak? So I don't know. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these right here to fit in between these 2x4s, and we'll have a channel coming up here. So the air is going to be blocked by the 2x4. I don't know what the real solution is, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill some big holes in these 2x4s. So when the air comes up the vent, it'll go through the holes and so on. I hope that's okay, because that's what's going to happen. It's getting late and dark now, so I'm having trouble videoing. I've got one light bulb here, but I thought I'd point out that I was able to get holes drilled in all of these cross pieces here to allow air to flow through, and the one down on the bottom was hard to squeeze and get in there, but we managed. What I found though was my drill was overheating and bogging down, and after 3 holes it wouldn't work anymore. So if you look on the bottom one there, I switched from 1-inch holes on the right to 3/4 inch holes on the left, and my drill can handle a 3/4 inch hole, so I'll do that from now on. When working out a plan for the insulation, it occurred to me, when I put the insulation in, what's going to stop it from eventually sagging or slipping down into the soffit area and blocking, all the airflow. So what I decided to do was, and I've done it in this one, is I've put a piece of OSB across there. And it's going to have 2 purposes. It'll stop the insulation from slipping down, and it'll also stop the airflow, or some of it anyway, from coming right into the insulation and directing more of it through these vents up here. So every channel is going to get a piece of OSB at the bottom. Oh geez, okay. Oh, you're all wet, you've been in the water. Okay. Good to see you. Good to see you. You go way over there. So with the first rafter vent in place, I'm going to put the second one on now. And it makes sense that these cones would go into these cone depressions right here. So they're going to overlap, and I'll just drop these first 2 cones in those first 2 depressions. So in this first channel, first attempt at it, I've got 4 rafter vents in, and I overlap them by putting the cone inside the cone of the previous one, which means they overlap by about 4 inches or so. But what that's done is, at the end, it's left me over a foot short. So on the next channel, maybe I won't overlap them, or I won't overlap them as much. I won't stick cone in cone. On this one here, I'll try just butting them up and see if I come closer to the peak. Okay, so that worked out way better. Instead of overlapping them by putting the cone inside the cone, I just overlapped them by maybe a ½ inch. And I don't know if you can see, but right here, it's about 6 inches overlap, and this is only a ½ inch overlap. So what that means is 4 rafter vents make it all the way up, and I don't have to cut a little piece to fit at the end. Trial and error. So I've cut the vapor barrier that's going to go up on this side right here. Now the vapor barrier is 10 feet wide, so it's going to go from there all the way to that one right there. And from the wall all the way up to the peak. It's folded right now. I'll unfold it, move it over to the edge here, but then I'm going to have to make a bunch of cuts in the end of the vapor barrier everywhere where the loft floor joists are in between the rafters. So it's going to be cut up quite a bit, and then to pull it down to the wall, and then I'll have to tape it all up to make it airtight. It's a little tight quarters in there. 14 7/8. So for this vapor barrier to drop down to the wall and overlap the wall sufficiently, I'm going to have to make a cut at all of these marks to allow the vapor barrier to bypass the floor joists. We'll go down to the bedroom and take a look and see what happened. So there's the pieces. They've fallen through. I'm just going to have to pull them down tight and see if they overlap the wall in the proper place. Well, it's taken considerable time, but I think we might be ready for insulation. I've got the vapor barrier stapled down on the wall in the bedroom, and I've got it rolled up here and ready to go. So I'm going to put some insulation. I'm going to start off in this cavity here because it's only got one floor joist in it. Now, it's not going to be as simple as just laying the insulation in because every cavity's got floor joists in there. So for these first bats, we're going to have to cut them right where the floor joist is to get them to fit. Space for the floor joist and a slice about 1 inch deep for the electrical wire that's there. The good thing is the friction fit to the sides is pretty good. They're not sagging. I thought they'd really be sagging down, but so far so good. That's not good for the camera. I think if I was from the deep south, I'd be okay with this kind of heat. But being a Canadian, this is way too hot for me. Way too hot. I think I'll take a break, fill up on some fluids, and then talk myself into coming back. And now I can start building out, coming up the roof, and hopefully they'll go a little easier than the first set. Well, I was having good luck with the friction fit. They were holding in place, but I guess my luck has run out. They're just falling down. So we'll have to come up with some kind of solution for that. So I'm looking for a solution for the sagging insulation bats. And this is what I've come up with. I've pulled the vapor barrier up and over a couple of chairs, and that allowed me to crawl underneath. And what I did was I stapled the vapor barrier on the rafters 6 inches past the last bat. So that will allow me to put the next bat in there and sit on top of the stapled vapor barrier. Now the bat's going to come out about 4 feet. What's going to stop it from falling at the front? I'm going to have to put something there as well. So if the bottom of the bat is being held by the vapor barrier, I've screwed this piece of strapping here at the top end of the insulation bat. So I'll see if I can slide the bat over top of this and into the vapor barrier down there and see if that holds it up. Oh. There's got to be a better solution than this. This isn't how they do it in the trades, I'm sure. Wow, that actually worked. Well, I'm pretty much done this side of the loft. It was a smoking hot day today. I put the thermometer right up in the peak and I just brought it down. I don't know if you can see it. It got up to 40 again, which is over 100 Fahrenheit. So it was another hot one. That's like 3 or 4 days in a row where the peak of this loft has been up that high. At any rate, we're all done. I'm just cleaning up my mess, and that's kind of what it looks like. And I'm reasonably satisfied with it. It all worked out pretty good. I've done 5 channels. That's the good news. The bad news is I've still got 3 more channels in the loft over here that I didn't get to. And I've got 5 more over here. Now, it took me 3 full days just to do this, doing the blocking down at the soffit, the rafter vents, cutting the vapor barrier, and then laying in the insulation 3 full days. If I was being paid by the job, I'd be making about 5 cents an hour. And when I'm done all that, then we can get out here, get some scaffolding, and do all this stuff. Lots of jobs building the cabin have been fun. This, not so much. That was a hot few days in the loft, but I had to get it started, and now that's done. I've got that part of the loft behind me now, and I think I'll leave insulation now until cooler weather arrives. So I can head back out to the pathway now and pick up where we left off. And I'm hoping that I can get that pathway done this trip from top to bottom. That would really be good. So the pathway is coming along pretty well, but we've reached this impasse where the big O travels underneath to the pump house, carrying the electric line down and the water line back up. So I need to build a little bit of a bridge here, and I've got to keep it low profile. I don't want to have to step up to it. Well, there it is. It's not super steady. I may have to shim it up a little bit, but I think it'll be okay. Hello. So for this section of the pathway, it takes a big dip down there, and I originally thought, nah, I can't do much about it, so the path will just have to slope down and back up the other side. But I started playing with it this morning, took a bunch of logs. I wanted them all to be cedar, only the big one in the middle is, and I fit them in there, and they fit pretty good. They fill up the gap reasonably well. So I am going to bring some wood chips in here to try and level that out a bit. So I've been working mostly on the middle and lower half of the pathway, and I've kind of overlooked and avoided the upper end, the entrance here, and for good reason. There's no easy solution here. It's quite steep, it's full of rocks, and somehow I've got to join the wood chips up from there, make a turn, and come up fairly steep up this way. I wanted to use this big log because it's nice and thick. It's about 8.5 feet long, and it would have been perfect for that spot over there. But as I'm moving it around, I'm realizing it's seen its best days. So I don't know if it's worth all the effort to move it into place, only to find out it has to be replaced in a year or two. Anyway, I'll try cutting this end off and see what it looks like further in. Probably not worth it. I mean, it's got some integrity. I don't know. Well, we'll leave it here for now. I'm going to look around for something else. Well, I've looked around for something big like this log, this old pine log, but I can't really find anything. But I do have right here in front of me some really good solid cedar. You can't beat cedar. That's a 5-foot piece, and this is a 6-foot piece. So we'll throw this old pine log back where it was, and we'll bring the cedar logs into play. Well, that big thick piece of cedar is in place. It looks a little precarious, but it's not. It's lodged in there really well. Plus, gravity is in our favor. Gravity wants to take it that way, and we don't mind that. There's a hill of rocks behind it and a tree, so it's not going anywhere. So hopefully this will hold back any wood chips or any fill that wants to go this direction, and then we make our turn and become a normal path. By the end of the day yesterday, got the pathway to a point where it's actually fairly usable, and you can walk down without being concerned about slipping on round rocks and stuff, and fairly level and comfortable to walk down, so it's good. But it needs some fine tuning in different places, but I'm just going to leave it for now because I'm thinking when the first big rain comes, we're going to find out just how it reacts to all that rushing water and if it's going to hold up. But just walking down right now, it's fairly comfortable. No fear of catching yourself on a root or anything. Anyway, I think I'll leave it for today and pick up on something new, a new project, and go after that. Well, it's tools down, and I'm actually up here at the cabin, and I'm barbecuing. Now, no big deal, I guess, for most people, but for me, I never barbecue. Our kids are vegetarians, so for the last 25 years, we haven't cooked very much meat. And we're having some friends come up next weekend, and so we thought we'd buy a barbecue. And then one of our daughters said, when she moved into her new place, it had a barbecue, which she has never used, of course, because she's vegetarian. So she brought it up with her this weekend. And so this is the practice run, or the experimental run. And I think most dads have practice at this and are pretty good at it, but I'm pretty much a novice. But we'll see how it goes. Good so far. We got it lit anyway. That took a while. So the test is over. We tested to see if the barbecue works, and it does. And we tested to see if I'm capable of cooking meat on a barbecue without destroying it, and I did. Anna's already taken some, so I'm just going to pull these off, and everything is good. Well, it's the end of another busy day. Lots accomplished, and Anna's made a nice fire again. And what is it? It's a little after 8:30, still light. It's a beauty fire though. There's two lines leading up to the cabin, and the one on the right goes all the way to the pump house. It's the water line and the electrical line. And the one on the left, over here, it drains the eaves trough. So the way we've got the path overlapping it now, I pretty much got to move the eaves trough drain, or any heavy rain, it's just going to wash everything out down there. So what I've decided to do up here is I'm going to tunnel underneath the electrical and water line right through here, and then send this eaves trough drain underneath and send it across the hill that way, so it drains down over there. I think that may be enough. Maybe I'll just dig a little more at the top, and then I'll try and see if I can fit that big O underneath. This eaves trough drainage goes underneath here. Little tunnel comes out this side. Pretty long pipe, doesn't need to be that long. Suppose I could cut it, and it's going to drain downhill. I'll move it over a bit. I'm building a wood shed, and I've chosen this area out behind the storage shed because it's fairly flat, and it's not going to take a great deal to level it off. So I'm just putting some stakes in the ground now and running some lines, and I'm going to see if I can get it close to level. I would like to put down some patio stones on the bottom as the base, and I have a couple of good ones, big ones down here at the bottom, and they are super heavy, and I know I'm not capable of lifting them and carrying them up the hill. You can't really tell the steepness of the hill from the video, I'm sure, but it's steep and these are darn heavy. So I'm going to try and roll them up the hill, and we'll see in the first few feet if that's possible. The idea here is to build a woodshed that will be big enough to store firewood and maybe even some of the excess lumber I've got in the basement. So I'm going to build it 4 feet wide. Those are 2 feet by 2 feet, those concrete slabs. So 4 feet wide and 12 feet long. So 6 of those slabs. I've got all the slabs over there ready to bring in. And the whole purpose of the concrete slabs is to give a solid base, but also to discourage animals and rodents from taking up residence underneath it, in particular skunks. Well, that's it. Last slab is down and it's done. It was a hot day, but still a lot better than installing insulation in the loft. And we end up with 4 feet by 12 foot foundation, and it's reasonably level as I think it needs to be for this type of structure. And I got to set about now planning a woodshed, and I'm thinking 6 or 7 feet tall with a roof. So I'll have to get after that. So before I leave this time up, I thought I better straighten up all the mess I made. I pretty much destroyed the shed here, just throwing things inside and helter-skelter. So we'll try and straighten it out a bit and make it usable again. And a couple hours later, the shed is organized and respectable again. Can actually move around in here. Even better than that, we can actually find things. Well, that's my time up here at the cabin. Got to pack up and head home. But I did have a week up here, over a week actually, to get things done. And Anna and one of our daughters came up for 2.5 days, which was really nice. And in that week, I managed to tackle 4 different projects to some degree. Now, the insulation, I found that a little hot and difficult, and I don't think I'll be returning to that one until it gets cooler, maybe September. But what I did enjoy most of the 4 projects was working on the pathway down the hill, which I'm on right now. It was the most gratifying because it worked out pretty well. It's a nice easy walk coming down, a little steep in one place, but overall pretty good. So pleased with it. And the other jobs, got them all started and they're well underway. So next time up, we'll be able to take a crack at those. So anyway, I usually have an excuse that I don't have enough time to get things done. And I don't have that excuse this time. Maybe it was a little hot and that slowed me down. Maybe even slower than I normally am, but it was a great visit. And right now, I'm sorry to be leaving, because what a fabulous day this is. It's 27 Celsius. It's a great breeze coming in off the lake. Like, even though it's fairly warm, the breeze just makes it beautiful. Anyway, that'll be it for this trip up to River Rock Cabin, and we'll see you next time.